Hello and welcome into today's edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. My name is Kevin Hicks and I am your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI, and I am so grateful to be joining you on this beautiful Saturday night from the Tempe area. And Arizona State athletics, the place to be right now, the absolute place to be. And that's not just me saying it because I cover this athletic program. I cover all the athletic programs when I deem necessary, but it really is the talk of the town. It's the talk of the town over the Phoenix Suns. It's the talk of the town over the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Diamondbacks season is over. Arizona State is really the focus of a lot of people, um, and that was evidenced this weekend in non-football sports. The football team did not play this weekend. They are set to play next weekend, October 11th, against the Utah Utes in a road game before returning home against what is maybe the biggest game of the season against Texas Tech on October 18th. But this weekend was a weekend for basketball, men's hockey, and swim and dive even. So swim and dive had their first meet of the season on Friday evening, and there were talks that the attendance was the best ever for a swim and dive event in collegiate athletics, and that is incredibly impressive. That really just shows that Arizona State athletics are moving in the right direction under Graham Rossini, that Olympic sports do still have fan engagement, fan interest, and that the Sun Devils really have lots of potential to be one of the most well-rounded athletic programs in all of college sports. I mean, they already have in pockets because they have a successful golf program, they have a successful track and field program, they have a successful swim and dive program, but it feels like they kind of trade off in terms of being great and not being great. And the potential for the baseball program, football program, and both the basketball programs to join in and be great at the same time as all those, that is very, very tantalizing. The Sun Devil hockey program played 2 games this weekend in a rambunctious Mullet Arena, sold out both games against the top 5 team Penn State and the potential number 1 pick in the 2026 NHL draft in Gavin McKenzie. And the Sun Devils played both games very, very valiantly. They fell short in both of them, but the final scores in both games were very misleading. They were much closer games than what you might see at the surface. And the Sun Devils are in a good spot under Graham Rossini, and we are going to talk about that a little more in a couple of minutes. But I also want to talk about the men's and women's basketball program. So as we all know, the men's program going into the season, Bobby Hurley really has his back against the wall for what is probably the third time in his tenure at Arizona State. The other 2 times he did the best work in his career coming off of the collapse of the 2017-18 season. He took Arizona State to the tournament the season after. The season didn't end the way they wanted to with a loss to Buffalo in the round of 64, but they won the first 4 game. Lou Dort and Zylan Cheatham were both stars. There was clear improvement, clear progression, and they would have made the tournament the year after if it had not been canceled due to COVID-19. And that's really the moment that the program started stalling out. But after a couple of disappointing years, Hurley came back in 2022-23 with an entirely new roster, a virtually entirely new roster outside of a couple of players. He made the NCAA tournament again, and although they didn't make it to the round of 32, they lost in a heartbreaker. TCU made a game-winning basket in the closing seconds. They still impressed, but there have been 2 disappointing seasons in succession of that. So now he's in the final year of his contract. Many consider him a lame duck. He lost Jaden Quaintance to Kentucky. He lost Josen Sannon to St. John's. He lost Amir Ali to Mississippi State, and the rest of his roster either transferred out or lost their eligibility. So he's kind of had to start from square one. He built an entirely new roster, an entirely new in an entirely new manner, and we have guys like Mo Odom, who's a real pure point guard, the first one that he's had in some time. Possibly going back to Frankie Collins, possibly even more, depending on what your definition of a pure point guard is. He brought in a lot of international players, a lot of guys that can shoot the three ball with efficiency, a lot of athletic players, more depth this season. There, he utilized all 15 of his scholarships, so there is not much danger of the program having to play only 6 or 7 players during regular season games. But the Big 12 is going to be very, very competitive this season. There are as many as 7 teams that are top 10 caliber, at least at the moment. And at the Moonlit Madness event that they had on Friday night, Hurley was imploring fans to give this team a chance, basically, that he sees these guys come in and work hard every single day, and he believes that they have the potential to surprise some fan bases, some of the fan base, some of the donors, some of the boosters, possibly even Graham Rossini. And I can't say anything on this right now because I really haven't seen the team in action firsthand. But I do like the talent that Hurley did bring in. I think that a lot of these talents that he brought in are being slept on because they played at mid-major colleges or they came from overseas and they haven't played collegiate basketball yet. But these guys are talented. It's just whether or not they can scrap enough wins against brutal Big 12 schedule. Like I said, they're going to be playing Texas Tech, Kansas, BYU, Arizona twice, Baylor. They will be facing an absolute gauntlet, and it remains to be seen if they can scrap enough wins to get Hurley some more time as head coach. We shall see. But that leads me as a segue into women's basketball, and this is possibly Graham Rossini's best hire to this point. It's really his first major hire, but it could end up being one that defines his tenure as athletic director. Is hiring Molly Miller, the former GCU women's basketball head coach that's won almost 300 games in 10 years as a college basketball head coach. I don't care what level you won 300 games at. Winning 300 games in 10 years means that you've lost 5 or 6 games a year on average, and you win about 30 games a year. That is incredible. That is a reflection on the program that the coach builds, that the mindset the coach brings in. And Molly Miller has rejuvenated this Sun Devil women's basketball program. I would not be surprised if they get back to the glory days that they had with Charlie Turner Thorne, where they were making Sweet 16 appearances and even an Elite 8 appearance. They were frequently one of the best non-blue bloods in the sport. And I really do believe that in the Big 12, they have the opportunity to be up there with the TCUs, with the Baylors, as a premier program in the conference. I think that I don't know if it'll show up this year. I think that there is some solid talent on the roster, but the Big 12 on the women's side is competitive as well. And usually first year head coaches, especially in a position like this, are just looking for improvement more than wins and losses. And I think that we'll see improvement as the season goes on. I'm not sure what we'll see in the win and loss column, but I do have faith in the women's basketball program moving forward. I will be attending several games and I'm excited to cover them. And I believe that Graham Rossini has done an unbelievably great job as athletic director. I think that he's put the right priorities in place. I think that he's still emphasizing Olympic sports and realizing that there's a balance between that and the revenue sports. I think that he recognizes the value of the athlete. I think that he recognizes the modern landscape of college athletics, including NIL and transfer portal. I think that he really has collaborated with the coaches in a meaningful way, and I think that he's led the charge in a lot of improvements with the athletic programs in terms of facilities, uniforms, whatever else. And he's just done as good of a job as you could have asked, especially with all the criticism that came with him. And Sun Devil Athletics are just in a great spot right now. It really, I really don't think that there's been a point in time where there's been as much optimism around the athletics as a whole as there is right now. And I am so grateful to be covering all of them. And you can find me on Twitter, X at KX_21 to give you all the best Arizona State content on the web. Also, you can find me at Arizona State on SI, obviously. And I thank you for all of the support that you give me each and every single day. And that is all for today, and I will see you tomorrow.